Welcome to the Tree of Truth podcast with Lidstone and Lambeau. In this podcast, we're going to take your mind to the cutting edge of societal evolution. If you like what you're about to hear, please like, follow, and of course, share this podcast with someone you love. My pen name is Matt Lambeau, and I'm a human consciousness researcher and author, and I shall represent the Western Hemisphere. With me is the lovable Lucinda Lidstone, a trained psychotherapist practicing for over 20 years. And she's also got her own successful podcast called Talking Tea Leaves. Together, we are your East-West connection in hopes of someday uniting humanity up above the confusion and dysfunction that so plagues this planet. You can find everything you need about Lidstone and Lambeau at treeoftruth.org. That's treeoftruth.org. With no further ado, let's welcome the lovable Lucinda Lidstone. Well, hello, Lucinda. How are you?
Hi, I'm good today. Thank you. How are you?
Absolutely superb. Guess what today is?
What is today?
Friday.
Friday
Right?
feeling.
Yep. And it's the energy of a Friday.
Yeah.
Basically give the middle finger to the rest of the days. We're just going to live Friday and Friday and Friday and Friday. Right?
Friday every day. Brilliant.
All right, my beautiful friend, what's the latest, greatest in your hemisphere?
Oh, what's the latest, greatest? Gosh, I don't know. I can't think of the latest, greatest. Ask me at the end.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll tell you what's the latest, greatest in my world.
Go for it.
All right. Green Bay Packers.
Oh.
Yesterday was the NFL draft. Oh, baby. I'm telling you, the NFL with all of its warts, okay, billions of dollars and all, whatever might be wrong with it. There was 150,000 fans in Detroit yesterday for the draft. And the part I love about it is we all root for different teams. Everybody's wearing different colors, but it's this big love fest.
Yeah.
And so I think it's indicative of what religion should be. Who gives a rat's ass who your God is? We're all in this together. And so,
Yes.
and two, I have a couple of 18-year-old boys that are all adamant about it. So anyways, that's big fun. It's, in my humble opinion, the draft is bigger than the Super Bowl, especially if your team's not in it.
Well, and also what I love about that is that even in these difficult, challenging times, the natural instinct is to get together with like-minded souls and have joy and have fun and share. That's just so wonderful, how uplifting. And I love that we have to remind ourselves that these gatherings, whatever they are, for whatever purpose, are still going on and people feeling good together in the same
Absolutely.
space.
It's a beautiful
Wonderful.
thing. Yeah. And two, you hate to see somebody spend too much time enamored with sports, but it's a nice departure from the shit show. And again, you got all those people uniting. Now you add alcohol. It's just one big orgy. Nothing but fun.
And also think of the energy that creates, the positive energy, the joyful energy.
Absolutely.
The light energy, we speak about this a lot. It's all for the good, isn't it? Yeah.
There's a case to be made that wherever you find love, if that's an NFL stadium, would be it, but that's the creator.
That is, I agree.
Just filling
100%.
all the souls with love.
Yes. Beautiful.
That's good stuff. Yep. So that's good, but I'll pin you down for yours at the end of the show.
Okay.
All right. Hey, listen, my beautiful friend, we got a good gig today. Okay.
We have.
Amy the Desert Bratt is thinking about joining us. I'm assuming she will here. But more importantly, an old friend of mine, Gina Jake. Okay. And I'm excited about this because Gina Jake is into the psychedelic therapy. Okay.
Marvelous.
When we bring her on, I'll have her give her website and everything like that. But guess who else is into that?
Who?
You.
Me. Yes.
Yeah.
Currently studying and off in 2 weeks to have a group experience of a psychedelic session.
Oh my God. God.
Oh
So I
my
am
God.
so looking forward to the two of you having this conversation because I
Yes.
am totally intrigued. Okay. So you ready to meet Gina?
Yes, bring that lady on.
All right, Gina, where are you?
I'm right here. How are you? Pleasure to
There
meet
she
you.
is. Gina, welcome to the program. Such a pleasure to have you with us. Gina is a friend of mine. I am passionately in love with her and always will be. We talked a little before the show that Gina and I had a chapter down in Naples, Florida that was so much fun. It's
So
good
much
stuff.
fun.
Yeah,
So much
yeah.
fun. Just
Good
innocent
stuff.
fun.
Yeah, so Gina, obviously you and Lucinda have a lot in common. So I'm excited to talk about this topic. So why don't you bring us up to a little speed with what you're thinking and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So Gina, how did you enter into the world of psychedelics? What's your background? What do you do? What led you to that?
You know, I started psychedelics. I mean, I've dabbled in it all my life, but I started using as a therapeutic use about 7 years ago. So what draws to anyone to therapy is I wanted to know why I did the patterns I did. You know, I had a lot of trauma and dysfunction growing up, so I was very much invisible. I was molested by my grandfather, so it created a lot of stories of there's something wrong with me. And so I ran to tools like alcohol and then later on to drugs, but I was very successful in my corporate job, you know, at the Ritz-Carlton. So top sales manager, but just when weekends came on, I really was just trying to numb myself so I didn't have to think about what's wrong with me. You know, I tried to keep relationships, but I couldn't keep them very long term just because I definitely was not marriage material at that time. And then finally, it came to a point where I decided I wanted to change my life. So I started getting healthy. I did 15 years of therapy, but all the while still in corporate America, working in group sales. And then 7 years ago, I started doing psychedelics and specifically went to ayahuasca. So ayahuasca is the Shipibo tradition from Peru. And she really is, every psychedelic has their own workmanship of what they do, and she's a shadow worker. So she goes to the depths of your soul that you won't even go to, and she holds you to get rid of the stories like I'm unworthiness of love, because as you guys know, anything less than us being a divine being of creator, source, whatever you want to call it, is all noise. That's it. So she goes to the depths of your soul and gets you so uncomfortable, because all of psychedelics, what they do is they say, walk through it, walk through it. You got to feel everything in order to release it, right? We're in this human experience of polarity, you know, and if you felt miles of darkness, you can come back and be miles of light, you know, and just walk this earth as light, you know. So take that, what's happened to you, and make it your mission to be the safe space if you didn't have that. So ayahuasca, when I started, there was nothing really called integration or preparation. So we just went into it, you know, and I would be crying like afterwards, and I thought I was losing my mind. So, you know, as I was doing these psychedelics and getting healthier and healthier and really doing the work, the inner child work, you know, everything, because psychedelics is not a silver bullet. Like the work is afterwards. It's the medicine's medicine. So you have to do the work of the lessons you learned in order for the transformation to happen. So I started to not enjoy my job because it was not my heart, you know, and I was getting all these messages through all the psychedelics that I got, which I've done San Pedro, peyote, bufo alvarius, MDMA, ketamine, you know, to really understand this world, to become the psychedelic integration coach I am. So I started losing interest in my job, my corporate job, and I became like number 5, and COVID hit. So of course you can't hold group meetings with COVID. So they let go of 50% of our staff. And I was one of them. And my boss was like crying to me because I had been with this company, which I left Ritz-Carlton for Posadas for about 15 years. And he's like, I didn't want to call. And I was like, no, thank you. I would have never have left, you know, making 6 figures, having insurance. I would never have left. So I'm grateful. Thank you. So I decided to follow my heart and started to massage horses and dogs. Didn't know, you know, I knew that I was going to go into psychedelics, but didn't know the depth of it at that time. And then I started working with a shaman who serves different medicines, and I started working for her, and then evolved into a psychedelic integration coach, so that every person that came to her got true preparation and support before, during, and after. So that's how I made it into it. It was just by chance and following my heart.
So I guess first thing, practical thing I want to ask you is where you are psychedelics legal to take where you are?
No,
No.
they are considered Schedule 1. So what you're seeing a lot, and there just was a case in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, I'm in Florida, is the Eagle and the Condor Church just won the DEA's approval and permission to be able to serve ayahuasca. So there's churches here like Simon Damtide, which is from Brazil. So they basically are allowed to serve here. However, there was no churches here that basically says, you know, this is my divine right. My divine right is to heal any which way I can. And this is just got approval from the DA to serve. So you're going to see what has happened is a lot of people are utilizing it undergrounds, not the ketamine clinics, because those are legal. But MDMA just got legalized for therapeutic use through MAPS and Johns Hopkins Psychedelic Research Center. Psilocybin is next, you know, so they got approved for breakthrough therapy for depression and anxiety. So that's next. And then you can go to Peru, to Mexico, where these countries, it's completely legal.
Yeah. So I think you're a little bit ahead of us there. And so are some places in Europe. So, for instance, for my psychedelic experience to be legal to work in a group, I have to go across to the Netherlands. So I think all these things will be coming here. But so there's a lot of research going on at the moment, particularly with MDMA for PTSD and trauma, psilocybin for depression, and ketamine for depression. So there's a lot of research happening here. And it's that obviously the first legalization will be for medical use. That makes me slightly worried, because things are then reduced down to their active part. And particularly for ayahuasca, we know that it's the spirit of the whole plant. That shamanic view is very different from the kind of medicalized view. But, you know, we've got to start somewhere. So at the moment, I can't legally support somebody whilst they're going through their experience. But like you, what I can offer is the preliminary work, you know, because what we hear again and again, once you're in the world of psychedelics, what you hear again and again is how important mindset is, and setting what your environment is. So I think if you see a therapist beforehand, you can get really clear about what fears might come up, about what you'd like to discover about yourself, bearing in mind, of course, that we can never truly know what our experience is going to be. And I guess a lot of the times you get what you need to get, not what you want to get.
Correct.
And then, of course, the integration work afterwards. So, you know, that's where my practice is going into those areas, the integration work, because of the legal restrictions. So tell us, you started to talk about ayahuasca. So I really would like to talk about the different substances and how you feel they're different and how you feel the experience is different. Because I think, you know, anybody coming to this, drugs have got a bad name, haven't they? It's like, oh, it's drugs. And what people are forgetting is that if you get SSRIs or, you know, antipsychotics from your GP, that's a psychotropic medication. It's no different, other than that's been legalized, and currently this hasn't. So I want to get away from the idea of it being drugs and shameful and bad, and we shouldn't do that, and being addictive. So yeah, so can we talk about that? So you've said a little bit about ayahuasca. What do you think is unique to that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Like in the Shipibo tradition and Colombia and other countries where this is, Brazil, where it's a national treasure, it's really utilized as medicine, so it's utilized in a sense of if someone is going through a hard time or they've had trauma or they don't remember who they are, this is when it's utilized. Now, we have to be much more careful in Western society because, like you said, we're taking pharmaceuticals. So that's why integration coach is so important. And any place that you select does a medical intake, because there are contraindications towards each of these, I call them medicines, that you really need to understand and work with so that you have a safe journey as well as an informed journey of what's going to happen, and then the support. Because, for us going into these experiences, not knowing what's going to happen, it's pretty scary. And if you had any trauma as a child where you were scared of things, it can invoke those memories, right? It can bring back repressed memories. So you've got to be prepared for this. But ayahuasca for, itself is typically very traditionally held, like you're going to go with an intention. There is going to be a shaman there that has lineage. I can't ever see ayahuasca be in an environment like you're inside, because part of the ayahuasca journey is you feel the connection to earth. Like you want to go and hug the tree, and on a cellular DNA soul level that we are connected to everyone and everything. The tree, the pig, the person, every single thing is interconnected. And our human minds are here, where the psychedelics take us up here to a bird's eye view, so that you can see how interwoven it is. And with ayahuasca, when you take that, when you first taste it, it does not taste well, right? So you kind of take it down, and many times someone will put honey, you'll take a little honey afterwards to get that taste out. And as soon as you take this, because you're ingesting an MAOI inhibitor, which is the ayahuasca vine, and you're taking it with the chacruna leaves, which has all the DMT. The MAOI is allowing you to have that DMT experience, because if you were just to eat the leaves, you would not have that experience.
Yeah, that's because of the enzymes, isn't it? The enzymes destroy the DMT. So the other concoction helps you not destroy it. Yeah.
Correct. The MAOI inhibitor helps it tremendously. So you drink this, you of course put it to your heart with your intention. But again, like you said, the medicine's always going to give you what you need and not necessarily what you want. And then you go through your psychedelic experience, so this is where different things can happen in the body. You get hot, you get cold, you start vibrating. Purging is a big part of it. I can say I purged so much on ayahuasca, but every time I did, it was so magical of how I felt afterwards. I felt that I was clearing my DNA and family. And there was even one ceremony where ayahuasca said to me, because I'd work on my unworthiness of love, and you want to talk to this medicine because it's a spirit. And I asked her and I said, what is this unworthiness of love? And she said, it's not all yours to heal. Are you ready to heal it? The next ceremony I went into, I said, absolutely, I'm ready to heal it. She showed me my mom and her life, my mother's mother, my father's mother, and everything of what they went through, and how the unworthiness chain just kept looping and looping until it got to me. That I was the one that was going to heal it for my entire lineage.
Wow.
Yeah, wonderful. So generational curses, generational trauma, that's all can be worked through if you're willing to. Yeah.
There's a study they did with rats, where they shocked the rats and rang the bell. And the next generation, they did it the same ones. You heard about this?
Yes.
They did it until the fourth generation, and then they just rang the bell, and every single rat froze like it's shocked. That's us.
Yeah.
If people have been traumatized in a lifetime, that's in our genes and DNA, and all it takes is just one person that says, no more, no more. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, tell me about the snake goddess that people talk about in ayahuasca.
The snake goddess?
Yeah.
Well, you see a lot of snakes, and snakes are indicative of healing. Like the snakes have the power to heal and they have the power to kill, right? So if you look up spiritual meaning of snakes, it's a lot of healing, longevity that is in there. So many times you're going to see in ayahuasca ceremonies the visuals. So it could be a snake, it could be a panther, it could be a jaguar, it could be a tiger, it could be a lion, it could be going back to a past life in Egypt. It could be all these different things that she could take you to show you a lesson, or to help you release something that you've been through, or to give you the courage. Because if I always tell people to look up when you see whatever, giraffe or whatever in your journeys, what does the spiritual meaning mean? So you look that up, because Native Americans always thought every single animal when it crossed your path has a spiritual meaning. So many times it was spot on with what they were going through, so she's going to communicate with you the best she knows how, but you also, some people purge, some people don't, but I would say the majority does, because we Western have been taught, and it's no fault of our parents, bless their hearts, there was no consciousing parenting for us, so they just did what their parents did, and their parents did what their parents did. And it's no one's fault. It's just what happened. And we are at the bridge right now, going from the third dimension into the fourth and the fifth, changing, returning to love. So this is where we're responsible to, we're not, what happened to us was wrong, but we were responsible to heal it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So tell me, let's move into, say, psilocybin, magic mushrooms. So how do you feel that is different from ayahuasca?
I describe, first off, psilocybin is going to change the face of humanity, hands down, number one, because if you are controlled with it through microdoses or macrodoses, microdoses is 1/10 of the macrodose, which is the journey. The journey is typically 2 grams. They did so many studies on this with Johns Hopkins Psychedelic Research Center, along with MAPS, where they took people with depression, anxiety, PTSD. At the end of the trial, in a year, 83% of people were no longer on their medication, were no longer depressed. They're doing studies right now to help people with alcoholism. There was some 70-something% that didn't touch alcohol afterwards, so really positive results that you don't normally see in an FDA trial. So this one is like a playful, it's in the realm of the ayahuasca, meaning it's a spirit, but she's much more playful. Like, it's much more playful. You can, laugh with it. You can go on a journey. The higher the dosage is when you're going to get closer to reaching like things that maybe you don't want to see or feel. That they're going to go in deep to say, okay, this is here. Let's get rid of it. Let's either purge, let's cry, let's shake, let's do something to get it out of this body, because the body keeps the score.
Yeah.
So psilocybin journey is like, 4 to 6 hours, where ayahuasca is like 6 hours, and it can be very intense. So people tend to be very scared of ayahuasca, where psilocybin, I always recommend psilocybin or San Pedro for a first-time psychedelic experience.
Yeah. Because I find things like LSD, I find feel very different from something more natural. That I think in ways I can't really put my finger on, but they are very different.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. I feel like there's like LSD opens the mind and it really gets me thinking, but there's a spiritual element that I don't feel like I do on psilocybin, ayahuasca, San Pedro, Bufo alvarius, peyote. It's much more a spiritual connection, where you feel that connection to like everyone and everything. And psilocybin, that one's going to change the world, because you really don't have any contraindications for it. There's very little, for that. So that one is much more safe, for people going to it, even if they're on SRRIs. The problem with it, with SRRIs, is that it's going to negate the experience and you're not going to feel it.
I think the other thing you mentioned earlier, which I wanted to come back to, which is really important, is we've got to get away from this Western mindset that it's the drug that makes the difference. It's a very different concept. It's that the drug allows you access to your unconscious, or it opens a doorway to. So I like what you said, that it's not a panacea for everything. It's not going to solve everything. It just allows you access to what you need to deal with, and you really still do need to do that work, and that's up to you. You know, if you're just going to take it recreationally, not that I'm making any judgment about that, but you're not necessarily going to get the learning that you would have if you intend to use it in a more therapeutic way.
Absolutely. The transformation, because it takes the default network off. So that
Yes.
you can see things in a much different light, instead of like being in a victim mode, or why is this happening to me? You become you become connected with yourself, of remembering who you are. You're not the stories, because the trauma isn't what happened to us. It's the stories we tell. I'm unworthiness, unworthy of love. There's something wrong with me, and if you do that work, like you said, if you go back and you do inner child work, and you have your sessions, and then you start your meditation, breath work, habits that are super healthy, eating right, taking care of yourself, that's what's going to change the transformation. But sometimes we need extra help, like I did, to really see and feel myself, instead of being the person that I thought I was. I really thought I was unlovable.
Yeah.
Let me interject here, if
Yeah,
that's
go
okay,
for it.
Lucinda, because I want to bring Amy into the conversation. All right. So what I've just
Hi,
heard of,
Amy.
hi, Amy.
Hi.
What I've just heard here, I'm absolutely blown away. That, and I'm assuming you start with a microdose, but you can use these drugs to take your mind to a place. And when you're at that place, there's actually interaction, and you've got a guide, and I mean, that's beyond my comprehension at this point.
I'll give you an example. And one of the most powerful stories that I saw, and this is a veteran, right? And he was very guilty on the things he did. He came to psilocybin journey, 2 grams, to open his heart. That's what his intention was. And what had happened to him is he saw a lot of, he had to kill people and felt really guilty, but there was specifically one person that he felt extreme guilt on, right? So he always had these nightmares where he couldn't sleep, and he'd wake up and this small boy would take him to a cave that had blood all over it. And then he'd go in and he'd see the person all cut up, and then he'd wake up crying and sweating and just PTSD. And he comes to the medicine, and sure enough, psilocybin takes him to that cave. But this time there's no blood, and the boy is happy, takes his hand and says, please come into the cave. And he goes into the cave. The man was completely whole and said, I've been waiting for you.
Wow.
You don't have to feel the way you do anymore. Took his hand, and they walked out of the cave, and there was a bright light, and the man went into the light.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amy?
So many stories like that. So many.
There are. I agree with you. I've never experienced that exactly. Back in the day, I did a lot of the drugs, and I agree with what you're saying. I've never tried any of the natural things that you've talked about, but I did do LSD. I did cocaine. I did all that kind of crap. Matt knows my experience when I was young, and you definitely do go into a different realm. And then because I quit all that stuff at a very young age, and it took me a while to not really get help, because it seemed like everybody that I helped, they're like, telling me what to do versus, well, what are you going to do about it? So it became a kind of a battle for me as far as the mental strength, because I'm thinking, God, I don't know, tell me what I'm supposed to do. And then finally I had an experience that was really weird, and I was going to do something, and I was the only car on the street. There was no other cars. I went to open up a door to go into a building where I was going to do some business, And all of a sudden I had this lady, she grabbed my hand and she told me, she said, everything's going to be okay. You just got to talk to yourself. You need to know yourself. Go inside. And I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of weird. And then I turned back, nobody was there, right? And I'm thinking, holy shit, I haven't done any hallucinogenics in like 10 years. So I thought for a minute, it's a flashback, you know? And then all of a sudden I started realizing these are my angels talking to me. These are my guides talking to me. And that's when I went on a different path. I didn't do any of the other stuff, but started going inside. And, you know, I believe that I left 3D probably, I don't know, pretty close to about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. And I went into 4 and then 5. And I feel personally, internally, I feel like I'm moving into another level, which is really interesting. And it's a lot of fun because the conversations and the things that take place are super cool. And most people that I talk to don't even understand it because they're still here in 3D, you know, being controlled by whatever drugs that the pharmaceuticals are giving them, the TV, the radio, the music, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. So, and Matt hears me kind of talk about a lot of different things. And, you know, I didn't know where the conversation was going to go today because we've talked a lot about lately, in particular, MK Ultra, which is something that I've been very involved in because of family members. And so I thought maybe that's where we might be going, but it's a little different.
Yeah, Amy, I love how you brought up going within, because if there is one consistent message that I have gotten from every single psychedelic is there's nothing outside of yourself that's going to give you the love you need, the cheerleader you need, the protection you need. God is within you. There's nothing outside of yourself. You are your own creator. What do you create? And the only way to get there is in. So I love how you brought that up.
That's what we all do, isn't it? We think there's a book or there's a person or there's a guru or there's a rescuer, someone that's, or, you know, when people come to therapy, they think I'm going to give them the answer. And that's not what it's about at all. It's facilitating your own wisdom, isn't it? That really is what we're talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this, because one of the things, I think this is when I first stumbled upon Dianetics, the first time I was introduced to something like that. It seems like most of the religions are always talking about the here and now and the hereafter. Or these by the way, I'm going to ask you too, what's the difference between a hallucinogenic and a psychedelic at some point? But so these psychedelics and this whole concept seems like what's more important is not the here and now or the hereafter, but where were we? Where were we? Where did we come from? And where is that pain from within? So Gina, when you do these, go back into these realms, is our pain and suffering, is that all a human thing that, you know, passed through a human DNA? Or is it something spiritual that goes way before our human existence?
You know, I wish I had the answer absolutely to that question, but what I have been in the ceremonies is that this is a very critical time that we're in, because we went so far away from source, you know, from being heaven on earth, that the polarity that is happening on here now is that many of us are coming awake, you know, to the programming and everything's around us. So we came back to help humanity, ourselves, our souls, and chose to come back at this time to experience the pain and the suffering so that we can boomerang like a rubber band to the light. Because if we transcend that, we are going to change the course of humanity. Period, end of story. And it doesn't have to be psychedelics how you get there. It can be breath work, it can be meditation, it can be, you know, whatever, you know, you want. It's just returning to love and asking Christ consciousness, what would Christ consciousness do? That's it.
There's two things that occur to me as I listen to you, Gina, and the first one is that there are many people now saying that they believe that, for instance, Jesus had access to psilocybin or some form of mushroom, and that these teachings are inspired, that all sacred teachings were inspired by some kind of entheogen or psychedelic.
Moses, when he was out and he gave the commandments, the burning bush,
yeah,
he did was an acacia tree. Acacia is filled with DMT. It's in the psychedelic realm as well, and he was inhaling it.
Yeah. And the other thing that occurred to me as you were talking was that Matt and I often, particularly Matt, if you don't mind me saying, Matt, have this struggle of like, is what we're doing, what are we doing here? Is this of benefit? What's the value of it? And all I could get to, one point I got to, was that, you know, we're putting love back into the field, aren't we? We're putting positivity back into the field. And sometimes my frustration is, well, I can only reach one person at a time doing what I do. And that feels so small.
But are you? Like, what if your DNA and the codes within you, and you walk into a room and you walk by someone and you ignite them? Like, if you are going from, you know, something that we've been through into the light, you could easily become the light as soon as you walk into the room and ignite a bunch of people that you didn't even know you did.
Absolutely. I love that you just said that, because I say that a lot to Matt. You never know who you're touching. You don't always see it. You don't always feel it, but you know that it's happening. I mean, even walking into a grocery store, you know, you can walk past somebody and it might be a smile, it might be a nothing, you know, but all of a sudden their energy is lifted because of your presence. And we all do it every day, you know, and we just don't always see it. And Matt, I have to tell you, I think what's taking place with this podcast is really going to be explosive. It's going to blow the minds of a lot of people, and it is worth a lot. And Lucinda, what you do every day, Regina, I'm just meeting you. You know, I don't think you realize the value. You know,
Well,
and inside, I don't. I know Matt questions himself a lot, and he shouldn't, because what he's done is brilliant. You know, in putting this together, and putting all of us together.
Every single person on this planet has unique medicine, right? Very unique, incredibly unique. Like, if you are walking this earth, it's because humanity needs your unique medicine, and we're to find it and then give that away. You know, and because it's not given to you by psychedelics or anything, it's just who you are. It's what you've been through. You know, for example, I grew up in a very unsafe environment when I was invisible. So now the medicine of Gina is always create that very safe space for people so that they don't feel judged, you know, because I know what it feels like not to feel safe. So it's become the medicine of me. Every single experience we went through, this is what creates us.
I used to look at my colleagues and think, well, I can see what you're bringing. I can see what you're bringing. What on earth am I bringing? What on earth am I bringing? And then I stopped worrying about that, because there were two people that I worked with for very brief, short periods of time where I thought I'd done nothing useful at all. And they came back to me and said, oh, that transformed my life. And I thought, well, how on earth? And then there'll be other people I work with for a couple of years, and then they just suddenly disappear. And you think, well, what was all that about? I've turned myself inside out. So, you know, I cannot possibly understand what's happened for that other person. And it doesn't matter what my ego thinks is of value, because I can't possibly know, as Amy just said, how that touches somebody's life. I can't possibly know that.
Absolutely. And you just being you're like, well, it can't be that special. I'm just being me. How can that be special? Right. But it is special, you know, but because you do it so well and so easily, because it's just being you don't see it as special.
Yeah.
That's because we're so humble.
But it also brings up the question, doesn't it? If we all need to be here for the world, what about those that seem to be bringing the dark energy to the world?
Okay.
Yeah.
You see the stars, right? You see the stars.
Balance.
Why can you see the stars? Why do we see them at night? Because of the darkness. It's the only reason we can see them, right? So in order to have that dark, we've got to have the light. That's the polarity we're in right now. And we're, you know, there's things that people become teachers. My grandfather, for example, molested me. He became a teacher to me, but in a ceremony, I actually thanked him because he brought me to my knees to heal all of the wounding in the lineage. He also allowed me to be non-judgmental. I would never want to judge anyone that held a secret like me. And it made me compassionate beyond belief, you know, for anyone that's ever been through anything. These are traits I would never want to change about myself at all. You know, so they become teachers.
So are these discoveries that we probably wouldn't learn until after we died? Are you kind of cheating death that you're peeking behind the curtain?
Oh,
while
absolutely.
Still alive? Yes.
Absolutely.
Huh?
And yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I know with Buffa alvarius, which is another psychedelic, what source feels like because of the God molecule that it is.
Wow.
And they've done loads of experiments with people that are terminally ill, that are terrified, petrified of death, and really anxious. And 9 times out of 10 takes their death anxiety away, because they get that sense of what's behind the curtain and that there's something more than just this physical self.
Yeah, I mean, and I have no fear of death whatsoever at all, because I know I'm just going to be going on to my next mission, whatever dimension, whatever universe that's going to be in, you know, and I'm here to experience love, you know, true love, love for an animal, love for a partner, love for myself, you know, love for a tree. Like, that's what I'm here for. And is it going to be a roller coaster because we're human? Absolutely. Am I going to understand everything that's going on in this world, especially the dark stuff? Absolutely not. You know, and I just sit there and say, I don't pretend to understand, but I'm going to trust in God, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, that there's something that is happening that we all have written that is greater than what our minds can possibly fathom.
Pregnant pause.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely love it. So do you believe that that there was this effort to keep these types of drugs illegal and to you know, stifle the exploration of it, because those that would seek to prevent them understand that this gives you the ability to look behind the curtain? Do you believe there's a concentrated effort to not allow humanity to gain this understanding?
Absolutely. And it's actually been proven with the MDMA when we were doing it in the 70s, right? And they were using it for couples therapy and everything. They were doing tests in a lab, right? So they wanted to make sure the lab, you know, the mice were okay, and they were feeding them MDMA. It actually was meth that they were feeding them. So the mice came back with their brains being gone. So they outlawed MDMA because of that test where someone gave them meth instead of MDMA. Is that not trying to halt everything right there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but absolutely it is. But luckily we've got our First Amendment right, you know, our First Amendment religious right to be able to heal, live, love, however we wish, you know, our religious right to be.
I think it's outrageous that somebody can legalize what I put in my body and what I don't, when it's my physical body, and it's my choice, and it's my right, especially as these things are natural. You know, you can go in the field and pick mushrooms.
Absolutely. But if an antidepressant works for someone, then stick with that. Like, again, it goes back to what is best for you. Like, you're the only one that knows what's best for you. So follow that. And if that's what you want, then follow that. If that works for you, it shouldn't be, you know, one path for everybody. Everyone's got to figure out what's best for them. And it goes back to what Amy said, go within, go within.
Well, I would challenge you about SSRIs, etc., because I think unlike psilocybin, they do have negative effects, and they are, you know, long-term use can be really, really dangerous. And we still don't know how they work. We still don't really, you know, there's all this nonsense spoken about dopamine and serotonin, etc., and we don't really know that. We're so naive in how we think the brain works.
Absolutely. There's a beautiful person you might want to get on the podcast in the future. His name is Dr. Ben Malcolm. He is with the Spirit Pharmacist, and his website is thespiritpharmacist.com. He's a pharmacologist as well as a psychiatrist, and he left to Costa Rica to be able to assist people getting off their medications. And there's been people that I've sent to him where he got all their medications, and there were 3 medications specifically, I know of an example, that were contraindications for each other.
Yeah.
So
that happens a lot.
The symptom, instead of looking at overall everything that this person's going to, their environment, what they're eating, all that we really need to look at.
And that is exactly what I talk about all the time. People don't realize they take multiple medications from the pharmaceuticals. They have no idea what's in them, first of all, and then what they're doing working against each other, or you got 2 or 3 of them that are doing the same thing. You know, I've got my father-in-law, he was on, I can't even tell you how many medications. There was about 32 bottles that I researched, every single one of them, went through, told them exactly what was what. And I'm like, everything that they're doing is treating the symptom. They're not going to the core of the problem. I got him off of all of those, got him on some natural Chinese medicine, okay, because I believe Eastern is better than Western in a lot of ways, more natural. Everything was natural. He was doing more. He was cognitive. I mean, he could think clearly. You know, he had more energy. He had more everything. And then he had his 6 months go back to the doctor. And my mother-in-law, you know, they were asking about the prescriptions. She said, well, we were going to go on this trip and we misplaced all of them. So then what did they do? They refilled all the prescriptions. And then my father-in-law got confused and he started taking the other stuff. Well, now he's batshit crazy again. He's got all kinds of health problems. He's at the doctor twice a week, you know, and I get really frustrated with these doctors, and they don't take into consideration modern natural medicine or, you know, healing herbs. They don't even want to hear about it for the most part. You get a few of them that are good that do, but for the most part, they're like, oh no, you can't do that. You know, that doesn't work for this. It doesn't work for that. It's like, what were you taught? You know?
Well, but the education system needs to be blown up as well. You know, I mean, yeah. I know doctors that really didn't get much education on what people eat and put in their bodies. That should be a whole year's class.
Absolutely.
So Lucinda made reference to LSD. What's the difference? Is LSD synthetic? I assumed it was.
Yes.
So what's the difference if it's synthetic? It can't be natural like this of the creator. What's the difference between a mushroom and a LSD?
You know, LSD is a synthetic. However, there's, you know, ketamine is a synthetic, MDMA is synthetic, but they've all been synthesized from plants, right? So they're derivative from that, you know, and then take it in, for example, MDMA from the sassafras tree, you know, so there still is that involved in it. So there is absolute benefit into doing that, including microdosing LSD. Right now is coming out with rave reports. So it just opens the pathways. Okay, so when we have trauma, our neurons are firing like this, right? So it's working on the frontal cortex of the brain. It's refiring it so that you can handle things differently. You're not going to be triggered as much, you know? So if you're doing the work, it's going to open your heart back up, you know? So this is what it's working on. But for me, like, there's a lot of benefits in the synthetics. However, for me, I love the natural because of the spiritual connection I have.
Yeah, and that's how I see the difference. It's not that LSD and the synthetic drugs are not helpful, because they do open those doorways, but it's again, that's a Western thought versus maybe more of an Eastern thought or a shamanic thought, that it's not just the psychoactive part of that plant, it's the spirit of that plant. There's something in the wholeness of a plant that is more than just taking that psychoactive derivative.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So when do we get together and start doing these drugs?
They're not drugs. They're not drugs. They're medicine.
Okay.
Medicines.
I'm sorry. No, because the part that is so intriguing to me is the guided aspect, the fact that, you know, that experts like you guys can understand where this person's going, can hold their hand, can lead them on this journey. That's simply remarkable. And the effects of it, again, think of, I mean, it's a long sentence on this planet. If you're going to live to be 80, 90 years old or whatever it might be. And if for some reason at age 25 or 30 or whatever, you can all of a sudden figure this thing out and be able to live your remaining years on this planet with a clear understanding of your purpose, bam, that's a good place to be.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So now with the two of you, because again, before I realized you were doing this, Gina, Lucinda had alluded to it, you know, and as a therapist, when I see a therapist like her with her credentials is dabbling in this stuff, all of a sudden it's got instant credibility and credence. And so how fast do you believe it's growing? I mean, is it something that there's like a wildfire going here where now it's exploding and there's all kinds of people whose lives will be improved because of it?
I would say that there is, yeah. I would say so.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would too. It's exploding.
Yeah.
It's exploding. And it's magical when people start to remember who they are, you know, instead of the stories of the trauma they endured, you know, and them returning to their hearts of who they are.
So let me ask you this. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just one thought. I think that what therapists have to be honest about is the limitations of talking, right? And because, as you say, Gina, the minute we're talking, we're just sharing those stories about ourselves, our narrative. And all of these, whether it's dream work, meditation, psychedelics, they cut through that. They cut through that story that you keep speaking. And every time you speak it, you reinforce it. And they get right into the unconscious, and that can be really uncomfortable. As Gina said, you're confronting your shadow. And to me, that's the benefits of this approach, is to get away from those stories that we all tell.
Yeah. And, you know, all the journey, like ayahuasca, you don't talk in it at all. You know, psilocybin, when you do a journey that people are watching, you don't talk at all. You know, like there may be something that they want to say, but in the, you know, the 6 hours, but you literally don't talk, you know, so it is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful because you are going within, and every answer we've ever had is the answers within us.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question for you. So what's the benefit? And I think Lucinda and I discussed this in one of our earlier podcasts. By the way, if you haven't listened to our earlier podcasts, you should, not you per se, Gina, but anybody who's listening to this, check it out, because Lucinda is absolutely brilliant. You should have saw her pin down Alex Sakaris. It was great. Anyway, so I had this question for her earlier. So what's the advantages of going back in and understanding where we're from, getting all of these answers, as opposed to just being oblivious to it all? Why dig it up if you've forgotten it?
Well, I mean, one, we've forgotten that we're all connected. Every single person, every animal, every grass, every rock, like we've forgotten that. You know, let's go back to really honoring each other, Mother Earth, like, you know, everything that we have, being grateful and honoring that, like right there is a massive benefit, you know? So when you go back and the glasses of the trauma aren't on, right? And you see it from a little girl's perspective, right? You honor that inner child. And this is, you know, the therapeutic work of it. And you're like, I know that was hard. I know that was difficult, and I honor you, but I'm here now. The adult Gina is here now. I'm the one going to keep you safe. I'm the one that's going to create our life. You know, so you let go of oh my gosh, why did this happen to me, to what is this trying to teach me? So it grows so much, because when you return to your heart and you can actually feel, the other people, the earth, everything, your entire world changed. You're nicer. Paul Stamets, who has created Stamets stacks, he says it all the time. Microdosing psilocybin will make people better people, just because they're going to be happier, less anxiety, less depression.
Okay, so that to me is part and parcel of the results that happen when people have the near-death experiences. The ones that I mean, again, they can all be unique in their own way, but there's all kinds of people that were just egregiously selfish, had these experiences and came back as completely humble people, and again, so they can't be bullshitting us because of the transformation in their lives, where all of a sudden they've got a new perspective, and it is without question, they understand it's all about love. And so if this thing's only a frequency away, how long? Because this leads me to believe we're inching toward the Great Awakening, where everybody recognizes this is what it's all about. But in my world, I'd kind of like to see that all happen sooner rather than later.
I definitely believe we're going to see psychedelics and entheogens legalized on a federal level in our lifetime.
Will that lead to the Great Awakening?
I think there's a lot of people leading to the Great Awakening that has nothing to do with psychedelics, that are creating their own communities and be able to become self-sufficient. You're seeing like communities grow up all over where they're raising kids together and they're having farms together and things like that. So I think there's a lot of people out there that are creating these pockets until it just ignites all the way through, that we can't stop this. And I feel like right now, if we leave back to source says, okay, what did you learn? There's going to be future generations of your children. When they go back to source, they're going to say, how was heaven? And we are the ones that are creating it.
I think another answer to your question, Matt, I often struggle with this as a therapist. I think, some therapies want to take everybody back to childhood, everybody back to that initial trauma, so on and so forth. And other people say, quite rightly, well, I've buried that, I've moved on from that. Why do I want to rake that up again? But I think what you learn is that it's not about your thoughts, it's what lives in your body. Right. And it's a bit like having a rucksack on your back filled with all that past stuff. And as Gina said, potentially it's stuff that didn't even belong in you in the first place. And you can manage perfectly well going through life with that rucksack on your back, but oh my God, you can be so much more without having to carry that weight with you.
The body keeps the score.
Body keeps the score. Bessel van der Kolk. Yeah, absolutely. So Gina, can we just move into why is the integration work important afterwards, after somebody's had their psychedelic experience?
Because of transformation. You can go, like you said before, you could take psilocybin and just go back to your life, start drinking, doing the same patterns over and over again. But when you have a therapist or a psychedelic guide, they can point out the lessons that you've learned. And some of my most beautiful journeys were the most difficult ones I've ever had, and really helped me tremendously through that. And when you have a support there, they can help you pick out the lessons so that you can implement them into your life in order for the transformation to take place. Because ultimately, it is you that's going to create that. Psychedelics and entheogens just open the pathways for that. They let you see things in a different way. You've got to be held accountable, and a therapist or a psychedelic guide can keep you to that, and you can really transform from it, but only if you do the work. That's it. You got to do the work.
Yeah.
And a psychedelic guide can help you too in ensuring safety, making sure there's no contraindications with the medicine that you're going to, kind of see where you're at to kind of guide you on which one, although each person knows themselves best. And also to be able to get them to ask the right questions to the retreat center, the facilitator that you're going to, because this has also turned into a lot of a shady business where people are just looking to make money. So you do need a guide that says, you know, if anyone says like, I can heal you, run, because no one on this planet can heal you. You're your own healer. That's it. You know, so there's key words and things that, you know, when you have someone guiding you before and after, you know, you're going to make it like, if you're going to have this experience, why not set yourself up for the best success for it possible?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know, I think there's a lot of shamanic practice beginning to establish itself over here. And we have to remember that we need to put the word neo in front. We're neo shamans. We haven't got that lineage necessarily. So, you know, if I want Chinese medicine, Amy, I go to a Chinese doctor because it's in their lineage, and they're bringing all of that forward in their from their lineage. And so if I want to do ayahuasca, I'm probably going to go to the Amazonian jungle, because that's where the lineage is. So it's not that we can't, it's not that a neo shaman can not bring anything useful. They can, but I think that's important to think about that lineage and the experience of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you go down this path, do you have any like epiphanies to where certain puzzles of the world are solved? Like do you witness the battle between freedom and control, or the battle between different, you know, ideologies and religions, or different political ideologies? Do you have a God's eye view of what's effed up on the planet?
I have my own human view, you know, but I have a perspective where the only thing that I can work on is me. So even though there's conspiracy theories or, you know, effed up government, education, medical, the only thing that I can really work on is me. And if I work on myself to make myself the highest vibrational level possible, it's going to vibrate through the collective, and then they're going to start to go as well. So yeah, but I don't listen to radio, you know, like regular radio. I don't listen to TV. You know, I don't at all, you know, so I don't place myself in an environment where I'm going to get caught up in that negativity, because it's going to happen. However, I'm going to trust and have faith, you know, that this world is going to change to bunnies and unicorns and butterflies, which is my prayer.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't necessarily gain peace from an understanding that God's got a big purpose for all of humanity. It's really zeroed in just on you and your relationship with the Creator.
Correct.
Okay.
My relationship with the Creator. Correct.
Love it. That's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Called unconditional love.
Yes.
And the more I think about it, the more I wonder, Matt, if we can ever bridge that gap. Because the minute you get into the spiritual realm, so much of human suffering doesn't mean anything. It's not necessary. We don't, and as Gina just said, we don't concern ourselves with the other. It can only be about our journey. And then you come down to planet Earth and the shifts and the very human struggle, and get caught up in that. So I you know, you and I, Matt, have been looking for this way to bridge that gap, and they're just such different perspectives, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if it's possible to reconcile them. I'm not sure.
You know, I'm not,
if it's by design.
well, and I'm not,
Go ahead, Gina. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying be passive, you know, be very vocal, you know, abuse, sexual abuse, sex trafficking, horrific. You know, like, let's not have a Me Too movement. Let's have a no effing more movement. Like, that's it. Like, let's place our time and energy into really stopping this. You know, these are our children. Like, I'm shocked that we're not, you know, as a humanity up in arms about that and writing to our government and saying, stop this now, you know, because we can make a difference. Like, our voices, How we spend our money is how we can vote on every day. Like if you don't like how a company is or what they're doing or what they're producing, stop giving them money. Because then they're going to change. If every single one of us says, okay, I'm not going to buy, I'm going to only buy grass-fed whatever instead of slaughterhouses, then they're going to go out of business. You know, like that, this is what we got to do, is remember that we do have power to be able to place our money where we want our money to go.
Yeah, good point.
And Amy will probably be able to elaborate a little bit more on this, but so when you go, again, the part that I'm totally intrigued by is obviously you're able to look behind the curtain, and that gaining that type of a divine wisdom is, to me, is all the marbles. And so the question becomes, again, the world is pretty much a shit show. I mean, the suffering is indescribable on this planet. And so when you do this, do you come back thinking there is some sort of a moral imperative? Are we driven to make the world a better place, or are we, does it suffice to just find peace within ourselves? Amy, what do you think?
Oh, you're asking me. Okay.
Well, no, I'm not so asking, but bringing you into the
kind of waiting for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just kind of waiting to hear what Gina had to say, because I really like the way that she thinks and that she sees things. I think that a lot of it, I mean, yes, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of things taking place, but I also believe that a good majority of what people are seeing is by media design, you know, and I could go really deep into that one as far as who owns everything, but I won't, because that's not today's topic. But a lot of that is predictive programming, and we see it every day. I mean, every day. And Gina, like you, I don't watch TV. I don't listen to the radio. What music I do listen to is usually, you know, 369, 528, 999, you know, megahertz. That's what I listen to. Shaman drumming, that type of thing. Because I don't care about all the rest of it. I don't care about the words. I don't care about the majority of what's taking place out there. I don't like it, but it doesn't resonate. As far as the rest of it, Matt, goes, I think that, you know, a lot of it is by design, and we as a collective ourselves, you know, first we have to go within, we have to figure out ourselves, we have to learn ourselves, we have to understand we came here to this planet to be in this vessel to experience humanity, life, emotions, all of it, and the pain and the suffering that goes with it, because we need one to have the other. So there's the dark to the light. You know, you have the dark, painful, everything, and then you have the light, the happiness, the love, the positive. You know, and I'm probably not saying it as eloquently as Gina would, or even Lucinda, but because I get a little rattled and my brain goes a million directions. Until we can do that, and most people don't do it, they question themselves, they second guess themselves. They got to stop doing that, because they're the best at what they do. We're all the best at what we all do. We're all builders. So builders build, teachers teach, creators create. And we're all of those things. We just have to apply it. You know, and most people are too afraid. And that's because of conditioning, programming, you know, and that's where, you know, again, the MK Ultra and many other different things in that area come into play, because it's all been programming. You think about TV, what is it? What are you watching? You're watching a program. It's entertainment, you know, and what we're doing, as far as I'm concerned, we, you know, in doing this podcast and several others that are similar, it's information. And we're doing it not only in a factual manner, but we're also doing it in an entertaining manner, because we're able to get people to laugh, to realize, to think, gosh, I've done that, you know, or, oh, you know, the light went on, you know, now they're laughing. Now they're starting to celebrate a little bit. And they're looking at the other stuff going, oh, why was I so upset about that? It's meaningless, you know? So that's why I said to you the other day, and I think this morning earlier, about infotainment, you know, instead of all the rest of it, because we're getting the good information. We're sharing truth. We're sharing natural ways of being able to take care of ourselves, heal ourselves, and look within that most people don't even want to see. You know, look in the mirror and tell yourself that you're beautiful, you know, or you're handsome, or you've got this or that. You know, people are like, oh, I hope. Well, what is hope? It's a continuous circle. You never get exactly what you want because you're constantly hoping. You know, it's like, I'm going to have this. This is going to happen. Am I right, Gina?
I have it already.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
you know, and what brings these psychedelics and entheogens for us that have had trauma and dysfunction, right? We never were taught what love was. We were never taught what, you know, safety is, and we don't know. For me and these medicines, you feel that. And if I close my eyes and hold my heart, I can feel it again. Like I can feel the spirit of those medicines showing me what safety is, what love is, you know? And so if I feel that, I know everybody can. So I do have the belief that we are intrinsically good. We want to do good, you know, and if given the opportunity, if you could allow the traumas to release, we will do that.
1% better every day. If we could be 1% better every day, it would change everything.
Mhm.
You know? And that's, I mean, that's not a lot, but it's a lot.
It is a lot. It's a lot. It's a giant leap.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you
So
imagine if everybody 1% just did a little better, the entire population, that's a lot.
Yeah.
absolutely. So Gina, to kind of, we'll move toward a close here. One of the questions that I wanted to emphasize is you blah blah blah. Your belief of the impact this will have on humanity. So kind of, if you can, spill the beans in terms of just what where you think this is all going to lead us.
I believe it's going to lead us to return to who we are. I believe it's going to lead us to not look outside of ourselves to find God. You know, I believe it's going to allow us to place our money into areas that we believe in, you know, so that we can change how they advertise to us, all that, you know, so that we can change the game. You know, I believe that there's so much deep trauma that sometimes you do need psychedelics to say, oh, there I am. There's what safety feels like, you know, because it's so great that the mind is so strong, it's blocking everything, you know. So I believe it's going to uncover a lot of the darkness that is out there, and we're going to see that probably in the next year, you know. So people like us are going to be like, yeah, of course. And then there's going to be people like my sister Dahlia that's going to be like, what's going on? No, Democrats were supposed to save the world, you know, like you know what I mean? And we're going to be the calm and the chaos going, hey, it's okay. It's okay. Because you don't have to get there. You think so?
Go ahead. I spoke over.
No, I mean, and again, you don't have to get there through psychedelics. It can be through anything. It can be through breath work. It can be through, you know, just returning to love.
So you believe that because, you know, if you take a bird's eye view of it, it looks like the entire humanity is all sliding into the toilet, you know, whether we like it or not. And so are you of the belief that as we become one by one awakened, that ultimately the light will shine and humanity can overcome what appears to be an inevitable you know, it right now, for all practical purposes, it looks inevitable that this world's never going to pull itself out of the toilet. But do you believe that one at a time we can
Absolutely.
become? You do. Good.
Yeah, I do. I believe that, you know, tons of stuff is going to be uncovered in our lifetime. And, you know, we just have to trust and believe that more is going to come up and we're going to be right there, just returning to love. But I do believe that eventually this earth is going to be turned into heaven on earth. It's not going to be the polarity that we see now because we're moving into the fourth dimension, into the fifth. And if you do look at astrology, which is a whole nother topic, We're going into the age of Aquarius. That's, you know, where we're going. It's happening. You know, the earth is saying heal, and everybody, you got to heal, and everybody's shit's coming up because the vibration of her is saying heal, you know, and we've got to look at our own stuff in order to do that.
That's right. Energy,
Do you
frequency,
believe-
vibration.
Do you believe that everybody can be healed? Or do you believe that there are people that are so demonic they can't be healed?
I believe everybody can be healed. I believe everybody.
I do too. They can be redeemed.
Well, that bodes well for me. Gina still laughs at my jokes. Lucinda, what do you think?
What do I think? I think sooner or later, you know, even if, as you say, everything's shifting and sliding into the toilet, sooner or later that will come to an end, because all things do. This too shall pass, you know. So it's whether it happens in this lifetime for us now. Yeah, because, you know, all tyrants die, all regimes come to an end, things transform, so, you know, cycles begin again. But I don't know. So, you know, I speak to somebody like Gina, and it reignites my positive view, and it reignites my hope for something better. And then I'll speak to somebody else, and I'm back in the shit show. What do I know? What do I know?
I mean,
But
the thing is that healing is hard. It is messy. It's not linear. You know, you're like 10 steps forward, 20 steps back, to the right, to the left, you know, and you feel like you're losing your mind. And then that's why most people don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But it is worth it when you come onto that other side and you're like, wow, here I am, and I'm happy, and I'm safe, and I've created the life I wanted. Like, wow, you know, like, but it is hard.
And safety, I love that, Gina, because ultimately safety is in here, isn't it? Because even if I am not fearful, even if you're holding a gun to my head, if I'm not fearful, I have safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great word. Peace, safety, kind of synonymous.
I'm
Good
so
place
far
to
from
be.
that, though.
Huh?
I'm so far from that, though.
Are you?
You know what, Lucinda? I don't think you really are. I think that you just have a lot of things that you deal with on a daily, and sometimes you take other people's energy into yourself, and you got to remember to let it go. That's theirs. It's not yours. You know, you're trying to guide them to their own inner sanctuary where they can, you know, heal themselves, and you take that in because you're such an empath. You know, you
Yes.
take it all in. And once you start to release their energy and let them be responsible and, you know, accept it, you're better. And I used to do that all the time. Oh my gosh, I can tell you some stories. But now I'm like, that's not my thing. That's your deal. And until you get past that, I can't help it. You know, I can just send you love. I can send you, you know, a blanket of warmth and security, and, you know, pray that you will feel it, you know. And if you don't take that blanket and wrap yourself up, you know, what can I say? But you do that a lot. I see that in you. And it's like, let other people's trash go. Return to sender.
Well, the trouble is, Amy, after 50 odd years, I still can't work out what belongs to me and what belongs to the other.
Agreed.
So,
and then Lucinda, you add the energy that I've poured into you. Now you're a real mess.
You said you're going to the Netherlands, right? Are you doing
yeah. No, psilocybin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to her after she does the psilocybin.
Yeah.
When are you going?
Will.
Not next week, week after.
Nice.
Very fun. That'll be fun to get your report on that.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah, for sure.
Got any parting thoughts?
No, Regina, you got to come back after she does that in 2 weeks, for sure.
Absolutely.
I've absolutely enjoyed talking to you.
We can even do integration on the podcast.
Yeah, wow.
What?
That'd be great.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. For the novice listener, what do you mean by integrations?
Integration is unpacking everything you felt, everything you saw, so that you have someone to bounce it off with, to look at the lessons you learned from the psilocybin or whatever entheogen you're doing in order to implement them into your life.
And we're going to do that with Lucinda, right?
Yeah.
That's what you meant. Integrate. She's going to integrate it back.
Yeah, we
Ooh,
can do a
that's
little bit of
fun.
it for sure.
Yeah. Because it's a bit like a dream map. You know, if you don't, I'm really one for writing down my dreams and taking notice of them, because if you don't, they're fleeting, aren't they? You might have
Yep.
that insight for a second and then it's gone. And it's the same with a psychedelic trip. You're wanting to make that more concrete rather than just a transient experience or insight that
Right.
you'll soon lose.
Wow. All right. Well, that sounds like it'd be really intriguing. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
that. All right. Okay. Well, but Gina, thank you. Oh my gosh, what a fun discussion. I'm totally,
Wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful.
totally enlightened. And I'm excited for my turn. Right? We're all going
Anytime.
down this.
Fly here, and I'll hold space for you.
Yes, you will. All right. It won't be long. You know that. Okay. How fun will that be? Right? And you're my guide.
We're going to
Yeah.
hold you to your word, Matt. We're going to hold you
Huh?
to your word.
Say that again. I'm sorry, sweetie.
We're going to hold you to your word. We're going to
Oh,
make sure that
yes,
you
yes.
do it.
Please do. Please do, man. That sounds like my kind of adventure right there. Thing is though, when I go toe to toe with these people on the flip side there, you know, I'm going to have some questions for them. Going, all right, man.
Ask away.
Huh?
Ask the medicine away. It's a spirit. They'll answer, or your higher self, or your spirit guides, or your ancestors. It's going to be someone.
Oh my God, this is better than Disney World.
You're gonna love it, Matt. You're gonna love it.
Great. All right, Gina, I love you. Thank you
I
for
love
coming.
you.
We're gonna
Yep.
stay close, okay?
Yep.
Amy, always a pleasure, my friend.
Always. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Lucinda, who loves you, man? Where is she?
I'm here. I'm here.
Amy, quit moving. There she is. All
Oh,
right.
right. You wanted me to tell you my latest greatest really quickly. Just
Yes,
had it. Right. I was in the tea room, the cafe where I go regularly, and a guy had a book and I could see the author of the book. And I thought, I've got to talk to that guy. And I went up to him, and this wonderful connection and this wonderful discussion happened. And it's just so lovely when you meet a stranger and you know nothing about each other and you really connect just in 10 minutes. So that was wonderful.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what Gina was talking about in terms of again, the little people we touch as we move through this planet is remarkable. I think your average human being will be absolutely shocked. Kind of like, what's the Christmas movie where it's a Good Life or whatever that thing was, where he finally realizes that, holy cow, just my little interactions have changed so many lives for the better.
Yeah.
Yep. That's good stuff. So quickly, what kind of book was it? Just you had recognized the author or something?
It was by a guy called Gabor Mate. He does an awful lot of work.
Amazing.
Yeah, awful lot of work with addictions and trauma, and talks about, you know, nobody develops an addiction out of nowhere. It's from a trauma. It's from a pain, a hurt, a deep wound.
Really?
Yeah.
He's
Wow.
amazing. Gabor Mate.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I became a fall down alcoholic. And so you're saying I had some trauma. It wasn't my fault. There's some other cause.
Well, it's not about fault. It's about,
Right.
yeah, this happened to you. And at some point you have to take some responsibility. But he talks about response and ability. And are we able to respond in a productive and positive way? Not always.
And it doesn't have to be capital T trauma. For example, my first
could be
memory
tiny.
were my parents yelling at each other. In my little 3-year-old brain, all I could say is, why can't I make them happy? What's wrong with me? And that became my story.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good stuff.
And he also talks a lot about ADHD because he has ADHD. So he also talks a lot about that. But yeah,
Wow.
So that book was like a talisman. It made something magic happen. And
Absolutely
yeah,
did.
wonderful.
I absolutely love it. We'll end with that. Perfect. Love you guys. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
We'll see you next
Bye,
week.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Love
Bye.
you.